word jhana is, in this context, is often translated as absorption, because you're completely absorbed and completely focused on that practice. Now this is sort of an interesting side note. The word jhana is in Pali. This is the language that Theravada Buddhists use for their suttas, for their sutras, right? This is the Buddhism of Thailand, Burma, Laos, Cambodia, a little bit in Vietnam, Sri Lanka as well. The word for jhana in Sanskrit is dhyana, D-H-Y-A-N-A, dhyana. So when this word and this practice of meditation went to China, they pronounced it channa. And then it was shortened to chan, which in Korea is pronounced son. In Japan, it's zen. And in Vietnamese, I'm going to... Tien, yes. I can't do the tone. What is the tone? Tien. Yeah, T-H-I-E-N. But how do you do the tone for it? Tien. 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 Okay. Tonal languages confuse me. So, yes, so in Vietnamese it's Tien. Now originally, so it would appear that originally when we're talking about channa in early Chinese Buddhism, they're talking about practicing these four jhanas. And I've asked the Vietnamese monks here, do you learn this in the monasteries in Vietnam? Because the monks learn meditation in the monasteries. They said, yeah. This is what we learn. I'm kind of wondering if that's not some influence from Theravada Buddhism, because Theravada Buddhists will often still practice these. Not always, but often. Because in Chinese Buddhism, these four absorptions, these four jhanas have not been taught for 1,500 years-ish. So the word dhyana that became channa, that became chan, came to mean something different. Like Zen, right? It came to mean something different. Now, I don't have a lot of detail about these four jhanas. I'm taking a class now at the university on meditation in the early Buddhist tradition. And we're just starting to learn about these. And it's because the different forms of Buddhism that I've been exposed to have all been, it's either been Tibetan Buddhism or East Asian Mahayana. We don't talk about the four jhanas. In fact, Tibetan Buddhism specifically rejects them. Tibetan Buddhism says they're not a path to enlightenment, and so they don't use them. I think maybe they use the first one, actually. But basically, these four jhanas, you begin cultivating joy and rapture. Do you know this word rapture? Rapture is kind of like overwhelming joy. It's just like that's what I think of it as, a completely overwhelming joy. But then you get up to a point where you calm down, you settle down into equanimity. That's what you do in the last of these four absorptions, these four jhanas. And part of the reason for this is that we have so much attachment in our ignorant minds. So we're partly showing the mind that there's something much better. There's better happiness than anything that we can find in the things in the outer world that we're constantly grasping onto. The happiness that we can find in a fun job, the happiness that we can find in material things, all of that is nothing compared to the joy and rapture that we can develop within our own minds. So it makes it easier for us to let go of these attachments. That's part of the idea. Personally, I think it's also to make meditation enjoyable. We train the mind to enjoy sitting and letting go of all our crazy thoughts. Sometimes what happens with people when they begin meditation is they force themselves to sit, even though their mind is saying, get up, get up, get up, stop, 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 I hate this, I hate this. And all they're doing is training their minds that sitting on the cushion is something to hate and avoid. And so then they don't want to sit, and they give up meditation practice. There was a time, maybe when I was in high school, and I had been trying to meditate, and I remember being frustrated with it, and walking by my meditation cushion one day, and I looked at it, and I just went, ugh. I didn't want to do it. And so I stopped meditating for a long time. And then I tried a little bit, and I stopped, and I tried a little, and I stopped. So partly, I think, one of the benefits, I don't know if this is said in any text that this is one of the benefits, but my personal opinion is that one of the benefits of developing these jhanas is that you teach the mind that meditation is something to enjoy. But eventually you have to leave, you work on the first jhana, this first level, and then you leave part of it behind. There are parts of it that you drop away. And then you go to the second one, and there are parts that you drop away, and then you go to the third one, and then you calm the mind down. You let go of this, wow, joy, rapture feeling. You let go of that, and then you sit quietly in equanimity with a calm mind. So, in any case, this is what right concentration is about partly. I've got a couple of other notes here. So it's also any state of concentration rooted in the previous 7 folds of the path. That's also right contemplation or right concentration, right meditation. So then, if we're sitting and we're doing meditation and we're contemplating nirvana or we're contemplating karma, we could also call this right concentration, for example. And then we can develop this concentration through focusing on breathing, through focusing on an object, or through focusing on a mantra. So here we're focusing on breathing, again, at the tip of the nostril. Sometimes people focus on an object, and that could be a physical object, which I think is a more modern practice. Sometimes people will look at a candle flame, and they'll try to focus on that physical object. They'll look at an image, like a painting. They'll have something in front of them, a picture on the wall, and they'll focus on that, and then they'll try and perfectly mirror that in their minds. Or they'll just use from the beginning a mental object, an image of something in their minds. So before, when we were doing that Tibetan meditation, the sending and taking meditation, where we were breathing out good health and well-being in the form of light, and then breathing in as smoke the suffering of others, this would be meditating with an object, but it's a mental object. And then there's also using mantra. At this temple, we normally chant Namo Ayida Phat, right? So if we're calming the mind, Namo Ayida Phat, Namo Ayida Phat, Namo Ayida Phat, then we're doing right concentration from this definition. Of course, if we're doing Namo Ayida Phat, Namo Ayida Phat, Namo Ayida Phat, and then we're thinking, I really want a tuna fish sandwich. I can't stand it that it's so hot here. That's not right concentration. So we have to be careful that in our practice, we're not going through the motions. We all do that sometimes. I guarantee you. I remember coming in here one time to do this program for the chanting, and I'm hitting the moktak, the wooden fish, and then I stopped too soon, or I started to stand up after doing the Heart Sutra, and I went, oh wait, not yet, So yeah, we all have bad days. But basically, these are the 8 folds of the Noble Eightfold Path. So I hope you found these last couple of sessions useful. So I'd like to stop here and see if you have any questions before we go on to meditation. Yes?
Could you explain about the meditation different with yoga?
Different with yoga. Ooh, okay, that's interesting. It depends on how you define yoga. Usually in America, when we think of yoga, we think of people, in some studio somewhere who've paid a lot of money to, stretch and sweat and all of that, right? But that could be a kind of meditation. We do like samhoi here, we're bowing, right? This is very physical. This can also be meditation. But then, I'm not an expert in yoga, but as I understand it, meditation, like sitting meditation is also part of yoga. But their techniques might be a little bit different. How they're going about it might be a little bit different. So meditation is, I'm sorry, your question was what's the difference between meditation and yoga? I would say yoga can be a kind of meditation, or at least it includes meditation. And then our meditation, particularly when we're doing it very physically, someone from a yoga perspective might say, well, that's like yoga. So I think there's a lot of similarity. But then there are higher practices in the Tibetan tradition that are called yogas. In English, we call them yogas, like the 6 yogas of Naropa. And one of them, I maybe joked about this with you in the past, one of them is called dream yoga, where you're actually learning to dream lucidly, that is, be aware in your dream that you're dreaming. And then you try to learn to control your dreams. And then the reason for doing that is so that you can practice all day when you're awake, and then at night when you're dreaming, you can even practice the Dharma in your dreams. And in your dreams, you can do anything. You can manifest 100,000 copies of yourself and have everybody bowing to the Buddha. So this is considered a good way to practice. So it kind of depends on how you're using the term yoga. I think there's a lot of overlap. To answer your question, there's a lot of overlap between yoga and meditation. But yoga, usually when we're talking about yoga in the States, it comes more from the Hindu tradition rather than a Buddhist one.
If the one is studying Kung Fu and another one is exercise.
I'm sorry?
I said one is studying Kung Fu and another one do exercise.
Yeah.
You mean Tai Chi?
Tai Chi or something, yeah. Yeah, Tai Chi could be a form of meditation. Kung Fu could be a form of meditation. It depends on how you approach it. I think if you're approaching martial art practice because you want to learn how to break people's bones, because you enjoy that, maybe that's not meditation.
Yoga is the part of exercising, for your body is like moving, is soft.
Yeah, that's the physical side of it. So the physical side of yoga would be to have greater strength and flexibility and everything. Right. But then there's the meditative side as well. Yes?
I have a question. It's go back to last week for the number 4, is right action, and the first one is avoiding killing. Apparently there's some religious organizations that they are totally against abortion. I would like to know a little bit more about what the point of view of Buddhism to think about in terms of abortion.
Okay, so in terms of right action and avoiding killing, then we're talking about what about abortion? That's a very good question that is debated a lot. I think one of the different things in Buddhism is that there's no central authority making that determination for any of us. The responsibility for making right decisions is really ultimately on us. I think that, and this is my opinion, so in other words, there isn't one Buddhist opinion on this issue. So I can tell you what I think, if you want to know what I think. Okay, so I'll tell you what I think. I think that there are cases like rape and incest where there may be more damage to the mother psychologically, or if it's a little girl, physically also it can be dangerous. Maybe the most compassionate thing to do would be to end the pregnancy. That's up to the individual to determine that. I think if people are behaving irresponsibly and then someone has an abortion, there's maybe more negative karma associated with that. But as Buddhists, we never, ever, ever get up in someone's face and say, you've done this or you've done that, you're going to go to hell.